All right, so on the phone right now, we got UFC fighter and one of the stars in the upcoming film Checkpoint hitting theaters in Memorial Day weekend 2016, Jon Lewis. Jon, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going great, man. Thanks for having us.
Well, first and foremost, how did your role in Checkpoint come about?
Well, Tony Perez, he called me. We're working on a huge project together that we are, all very excited about, which is a different interview. But Tony called and asked if I would be into choreographing the final big fight scenes for the film. So I began that process. And then he asked if I would consider, fighting Kenny Johnson, the lead, in one of those scenes and choreographing that scene as well. And I said, yeah, I do that as well. And then, next thing you know, they said they needed to have some dialogue. So they were going to work on some dialogue for the project. And me as a writer, I said, let me give it a shot. So I wrote some dialogue for the scene that actually would be in myself. Mm-hmm. And they ended up loving it, and then we ended up doing that. So pretty much it kind of started off with us doing another gig together, and then just kind of snowballed into what it became.
So kind of based off that, how much input did you have in the film in terms of what you got to do, your dialogue and whatnot?
Actually, I wrote my whole thing. It was great. He totally gave me free reign to play with this character. Once I wrote that part, they loved the scene that I wrote. Mm-hmm. Besides the action, of course, just actual dialogue, and that some pretty clever, fun stuff to make that role have some significance. And that's it. I wrote the scene and knew how I wanted to shoot it, and the whole 9 yards, and they ran with it, and it came out very good.
Did you think that made it easier for you as opposed to someone just handing you a script and saying, here's what you're going to say, but, having the freedom of, writing your own character, your own dialogue, your entire scene, do you think that made it more fun and easier for you?
I would say easier. I mean, I'm used to doing lots of dialogue and features and stuff, so I like a good writer's dialogue, but of course, I was able to make that character very cool. Usually I do bigger roles, so being that it wasn't a huge role, I wanted to at least make it matter, something you would remember. So I was able to write. I was able to write a role that I would want to watch as a moviegoer. And it was just fun to do. It was cool. It was the character became really cool, and it was neat. It was definitely a lot more fun because of that.
So what intrigued you the most about the role of James Brick Dean when it was first pitched to you for this movie?
I mean, it was really what I'm saying. Is the fact that Tony Perez, that he gave me the free reign to develop this character in any way that I wanted, as long as it made sense in the duration of time that we needed. He was really open to what I would bring to the table. Mm-hmm. So that was really, as an actor, that's very intriguing when you can actually go in there and do something that you really want to do the way that you want to do it. It doesn't always happen that way. So that was very significant.
So over the past decade, you've done a lot of different movies. What kind of made Checkpoint different from those films that you've already done in the past? I'm like Tony, and his team. They're really open to creative collaboration, which is always fun. Mm-hmm. And as a producer, I respected their approach, which their approach is pretty much, whatever makes the film great. We're open to discussing. So, like I say, compared to a lot of other films, where it's, this is the way it's going to be, which is fine. It's neat to be able to come into a situation where you can actually, orchestrate what you're going to be doing with support, and then helping you pull your vision across, make your vision happen. Mm-hmm. So, and also during the course of this film, you worked with, as a UFC fighter, you worked with, former professional wrestler Goldberg, who I talked to the other day, and he said he was a huge fan of yours, and it was a thrill to work with you. You also worked with Bram Thomas from TNA Impact Wrestling. So what was it kind of like to bring, people from different worlds, you being from mixed martial arts, UFC, them being from professional wrestling, WWE, TNA. What was it like to kind of work with them during the course of this film, in addition to everyone else that was on the cast?
That was really cool. Goldberg first. I grew up loving Goldberg. Mm-hmm. In the WWE. I wasn't a huge pro wrestling fan, but I was definitely a fan of specific individuals. Goldberg being one of them. Dwayne Johnson being one of them back in those times. So it's like it was somebody who I've always wanted to meet. And me and Goldberg, we crossed paths in the mixed martial arts side of the world, because he's worked with some different fighters and stuff over time, but we've never really met. So I've always wanted to work with him and meet with him. And when I found out that the first scene that I was choreographing was for him and Bram, it was great. It's great. First of all, you got guys who can take hits. They're not afraid to do stuff. They're not afraid of getting dinged up a little bit. So it opens the doors, and they also have a lot of chops as it is. So when you say, you kind of can give them the technique that you want them to do, you don't really got to teach them too much of what the movement is, because they know, and they know how to take the fall properly. So I was really excited to get to work with them, especially Goldberg, as far as of those guys you mentioned. And then getting to meet Kenny Johnson, who's just turned out to be an amazing person. He's a great actor, but he's a great guy to work with, positive and enthusiastic. Yeah, it was really cool to work with these specific actors. It definitely made a difference of why I wanted to do this project.
And kind of going off that, was there any point during the film, during your action scenes and during your fight scenes and whatnot, like you mentioned, like guys like Goldberg and Bram, they could take a hit. You guys have been doing that your entire lives. Was there any point during the film where your UFC background kind of proved to be beneficial?
100%, because I'm a black belt in many different arts, and I am very well versed and respected in that world. So for me to take what I do and be able to create a great fight scene, incorporating all these different styles and things that I've learned and things that I know from professional fighting myself, it definitely made a difference, obviously, because I was able to choreograph some amazing fight stuff, which came out really, really good. And, I'd say, and as an actor, I was able to give it the drama that I wanted, as a moviegoer. When I do these things, I kind of imagine what I want to see. If I was watching a film, what do I want to see? And that's how I approach it. It's not any deeper than that. It's pretty much, if I was going to the movie, what do I want to see? So I gave it great dramatic build-ups and into the fight scenes, and there's great beats in the fight where you can take in what's going on, and it kind of reads. Those two fight scenes at the end, you're going to see, they really read very, very, very fun. They're more than just a bunch of action. But yeah, I would say my career as a fighter made a whole difference in the world for those scenes.
What would you say was your favorite part about filming Checkpoint?
What was really cool was that when I got on set for this couple of days, that we were able to, not only was I able to write my scenes, not only was I able to develop the character that I wanted to, but pretty much Tony then gave me directorial control, and I was pretty much running the cameras, running everything from behind the camera, running back and forth in front, resetting them up, making sure I had the angles that I needed, making sure that I had all the shots. So I pretty much directed those 2 days, which was really fun too, because it's not like you just gave them your choreography and hope it comes out good. I was able to make sure that it was exactly what I envisioned, And then the action sequence that I had with Kenny Johnson, we were given a very, very small space. You think you couldn't do anything in. And what was really cool about that is I had to become creative, and I came up with a very cool close quarter style fight that happens, 4 feet in width for 2 big guys. And it came off amazing. So that gave me some challenges, but at the same time, it made for a very unique fight scene. So that was really, really fun for me as well. So I think those are some highlights that I had. Pretty much directing those days, as well as creating this scene that is how you're going to make something amazing in this little space. And we really did.
Mm-hmm. For you, how was it different training for like a UFC fight, something that you've been doing, your entire career for years and years and years? How is something like that, preparing for a fight, different than preparing for a movie? Or do you think there's more similarities than differences?
I think acting and fighting are identical. Minus getting beaten, of course.
Yeah.
I guess that happens too sometimes, I suppose, in acting. You get beat on different ways. But in acting, it's all about being in the present moment. Listening and then reacting to what's happening. And fighting is exactly the same. Your opponent speaks with a combative technique, and you got to be 100% there and present in that moment, and answer back with an appropriate reply, in the form of a counterattack. So the same thing when you act. When you act, someone speaks, you have to listen, you have to pay attention, and then you come back with your reply. So it's, to me, when I teach, even when I teach privates to a lot of celebrities or actors in martial arts or get them ready for scenes, I usually speak to them. I'm almost an acting coach, because once you get them to understand, all you have to do is just watch what I do, listen to what I do, watch what I do, and I'm going to give you something, and you have to pay attention, and then you have to give me something back. And that's exactly what acting is. It's listening and replying. So I think it's pretty much identical to me in my mind, which is why I like the craft so much of acting.
Mm-hmm. So as the character of Brick, did you feel like Brick in the movie was you, going into a fight, or was it a completely different obstacle to kind of tackle, and you have to get in the mindset of getting into that character of Brick? Was it you, or a completely different, or maybe you turned up by 10? How would you say the similarities between you and Brick were in the movie?
Yeah, I'd say you're right. I say Brick was me and I was Brick. I was me in Brick circumstances, except that I had a little different swagger I added to it, and the way I spoke and the pace that I spoke was a little bit loony. But pretty much, we're all a little bit loony. So you take the character, you find the similarities between you and the character, and be real. So I would say it wasn't that hard to get into this character because me in the circumstances, I'm very capable of doing what was being done, and so are we all. It's just a matter of making the choice to do it or not. So it wasn't that hard to get into the role, but it was fun to put on a little bit of a offness, I'd say, or and make it interesting.
So you mentioned Dwayne Johnson before, The Rock, who, for Goldberg, a guy like him, a wrestler turned actor, has obviously gotten so much success in Hollywood over the past decade or so, especially in recent years. But when you go over to the MMA world, there's not many guys that have turned actors. I mean, there's Chuck Liddell, the most notable one, but you're kind of among a few elite people to kind of go from UFC and kind of doing it at the same time, but to go from mixed martial arts and then translate those talents to the silver screen. So to be among that elite group of UFC guys turned actors, what does that mean to you?
Well, let me tell you, there's Gina Carano, who probably did it first and the best. I'm sorry, my alarm's someone's driving by loud here if you can't hear me. Ronda Rousey, right now she's shooting a Peter Berg film, big film. She also did that's Fast 7 recently, and Quentin Jackson did the A-Team, right? He was D.A. Baracus.
Yeah, of course.
But there's been a few others that did some really notable stuff, and I don't really see myself that way. The difference between me and them is that a lot of them were given opportunities based on their current status in the martial arts. Like, for instance, Gina or Ronda's a champion right then, and everybody was digging on her, so they get a phone call from the studio, not even for an audition, just offering her a role. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Where it's based on that. Now, me, I retired over 10 years ago, and I wanted to come to this craft. So I didn't get my jobs as an actor because I was already someone in MMA. Most of the time, when I go into the room or when I am brought in for a role, they don't even know my history, and then my agent will let them know who I was or what my skill sets are. Mm-hmm. But the majority of my films have been romantic comedies and dramas, very few fight scenes. So I kind of consider myself more of a real actor in a way that I study just as hard for acting as that I do for fighting. I go to classes and I take it very, very seriously that way. So it's not like I got these jobs because of who I am as a fighter. So I think that's a little different. But they're all developing fine actresses and actors, especially Gina. But yeah, it's a little different for me because when I came into this, it was the same way that everybody comes into Hollywood and says, I want to be an actor. And you're one of millions and millions of people that say that every day, and you have to earn it on your stripes. And so I'm doing that. I'm doing very, very well in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. And I think in even some ways, I think that might be better. Because like you said, I think you worked your way up, and not based off just notoriety from UFC, but like you said, people like Ronda Rousey, Chuck Liddell, Gina Carano, who, not to say they were just given the role, but in a way they kind of were, like you said. But I think, in the way that you did it, kind of worked your way up the ladder and to kind of get bigger roles each and every movie that you work. Now you're working Checkpoint, which hits theaters next year, a major motion picture. So I think it's kind of different. And like you said, I personally think it might be better in a way to kind of work your way up. And, exactly.
I think there would be respect in the long term that way as an actor, which is what I want to do. My role is, like I say, I'm not trying to be, I love doing action sequences, but my goal is not to be the next, I don't want to say Jason Statham because he's a very fine actor, but say Jean-Claude, where it's specifically he had a window on the action films in that past. No, I'm capable of standing in front of any level actor and running a scene that's very memorable based on my acting chops. And that's what's going to be more long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of going off that, do you want to, going forward, long term, like you said, do you want to be more of a jack of all trades, so to speak, than, just tied to just action films? Like, obviously the stereotype would be when you're going into a film, always a UFC fighter, he's just going to do action films, but that's not the case at all. So going forward, long term, your legacy as an actor, do you want to kind of be known as, like I said, like a jack of all trades, doing all these different kind of things based off your talents and being able to show that you can do these different movies, as opposed to just being tied down to just one genre of a film?
Yeah, I see myself more like a Denzel or like a Tom Hardy, where it can definitely be a great action guy if he wants to do those kind of scenes. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I am thinking how I can be a funny comedian. It depends on what the situation is. So I'm more of a jack of all trades, more diversity, depth in different roles, loving to get into deep characters and a method style, and really developing those characters and being something different. I shot a pilot for Sam Raimi recently for a lead, and I was the lead of the feature. And me and a young man named Aramis Knight, who is now the lead on Badlands, the kid. So, and I was the father, and he was the son, and it was really cool. I mean, it was a whole other thing. We're full of prosthetics, and it had nothing to do with throwing a kick. It was a true acting piece with emotion, and that's really what excites me, playing real roles with real depth that I can really sink my teeth into and develop.
And also in the last couple of years, too, I mean, you focused a lot more on your acting career than mixed martial arts as that kind of career winds down. Other than just acting, do you have any other avenues or anything else you want to kind of put full emphasis on, or is it just full focus on acting going forward?
It's acting and producing. I'm producing features. I'm a writer. One of the next films that I'm doing, which we'll get into later. I don't want to get too much into it now because I'm sure we'll talk again for that. But it's a very big feature that I wrote as well and producing, and it's going to be first quarter of next year. And that's really what I'm doing. I'm writing films. I'm acting and producing them. I have lots of relationships in the industry over the years, and I'm a strong producer that way. So I use those. I have the producing chops to be valuable in that world, but the passion, the love, is being in front of the camera. I mean, I've always been, I was a signed recording artist at one time when I was younger, and then I ended up going into, other different things, professional dancer at one point and on a high level, doing shows in Vegas and all that when I was a kid. And then of course I was a fighter and world champion there, which is the guy in front of the camera once again. And once again, that's something that you get that bug when you grow up. You kind of want to be that guy, and that's what's important to me, being the guy that moves people. And when I watch a movie and I'm emotionally driven in either direction from watching a great performance, that's what I want to do for people. I want to move people, and that happens in front of the camera. But I'm able to do the other side as well, so why not produce films that I'm in as well?
Exactly. Kind of having the best of both worlds, being able to direct and produce and being in front of the camera. Like I said before, something that a lot of people can't even lay claim to doing. Like the names I talked about before, like Ronda Rousey that you mentioned too, Gina Carano, like those people. They didn't even, long term, like you said, very different from you in that they were just kind of given roles. They don't really have any acting background, just kind of got there off of their notoriety. But even those people don't do acting or producing or anything along those lines. And I think that's kind of what makes your skill set as a former UFC fighter and also now an actor, director, and producer, what kind of makes you different from all the rest. But like I mentioned, like you said, you got many other projects coming up in the first half of 2016. Fans can look out for that. But first and foremost, people could check out Checkpoint in theaters Memorial Day weekend 2016. Jon, thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you very much, and I appreciate the support. We all do.
No problem, dude. Have a great holiday. I'll talk to you soon.